Hello everyone, welcome to my Random Thoughts Live on Facebook. I'm so excited and happy to see you, and with me is special guest Leigh Richardson. As promised, we're going to talk about some important things today, things like anxiety, stress, depression, and even suicide. I'll give you a little background about why we're talking about this important issue. I posted something on Facebook recently, and I got a lot of comments, and a lot of people created a conversation about how important it is to talk about depression and suicide, because there were so many questions. Okay, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with that? So I thought, let's bring you on board and answer some questions. Before we go ahead and start with some questions, please share this video, ask your friends to participate. Whoever you might think this would be helpful to them, this Facebook Live would be helpful to them, please share this video with them so they can ask some questions. As always, please comment below. We are looking forward to your questions and what you want to ask Leigh. So Leigh, would you go ahead and give them a little background about yourself?
Sure. My name is Leigh Richardson. I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm board certified in neurofeedback, and I've been board certified since 2004. And that's really my basis, because everything you do or don't do or how well you do it depends on what's going on in the brain. Mm-hmm. I'm board certified in biofeedback as well, because it took me a long time to get interested in the biofeedback. Then I realized this is attached to this.
Right.
So I need to have that understanding. Because a lot of times, things like depression, it impacts our physical being too.
Right.
So I got into neurofeedback a long time ago. I have twin boys that are now 30, and when they were in the 2nd grade, one of them got hit by a car. And when he got to the 5th grade, he came to me and he said, "Mom, I have ADHD." This was a long time ago.
How old was he then?
He was in 5th grade, so he was about 10 or 11. And I'm like, "You don't even know what ADHD is." And he said, "Well, I can't remember anything, I can't pay attention, and I can't focus."
Oh, no.
And I said, "Yes, you do." So, he came to me asking for help. So I went to the school and I talked to a counselor and I explained it, and the counselor said, "He doesn't have ADHD. He's never failed anything. He's never been a behavior problem. He's lazy." And I said, "Well, okay. What can I do to help him?" And she suggested I put him on Ritalin. And Ritalin is speed.
Oh, okay.
And my question to her was, why would I do that? And she
That's
said, well,
drugs, right?
It is.
Strong
and she
drugs.
said, "Well, that's the only thing you can do." And I knew that there had to be something out there.
Right.
So I started looking, and I actually found a neurologist, Dr. John Walker, who's really a pioneer in this field. And my son did treatment there, and I did treatment there. And you do it twice a week. So by the time both of us were through, I knew Dr. Walker very well. I said, "Dr. Walker, here's the deal. I'm going to go up to UNT. I'm going to do my didactic training. And if you're lucky, I'll do my internship with you. And if you're lucky, I'll work for you." And that's exactly the way it went down.
Wow.
And I worked for him until 2009. And then I started my own practice.
Wow.
In 2009.
That's awesome. So something in your personal life persuaded you to actually go and do research and get certified and help other people. That's awesome. Are you ready for some questions?
You bet.
All right. Loneliness and sadness, are they associated with depression at all?
Well, certainly lonely and sadness is a part of depression. The definition of depression is sad, isolated, blue, and with that comes loneliness. But I think you can be lonely without being depressed, because sometimes I think we set unrealistic expectations, and a lot of that's because of social media.
Right.
We have constant contact with people, so do we think that just because we spend a few hours by ourselves, we're lonely? But in general, those two are part of depression.
So some people just, self-diagnose and say, "Oh, I'm depressed." So would you say, how would they know that they're depressed? Is like being extremely lonely a sign of depression, or how do they know?
It's easy to self-diagnose because you can find all these quizzes on the internet to take. I mean, I had an 8-year-old come in and tell me he was bipolar. And I said, you're too young to be bipolar.
How do they know that?
Yeah, I said, what makes you think that? Oh, you know, I took this quiz on the internet and my sister helped me. I'm like, we need a little parental control in here. But there are things to look for.
Right.
And look for, one of the first things that you notice is you don't enjoy. The things that you used to love doing, you just don't get any joy from doing them. You don't want to do them anymore. You know, you start to feel more hopeful or less hopeful, more helpless. And maybe you change your behavior. Maybe your eating habits change. You know, maybe you stop eating. Or maybe you start eating from emotional hunger and you overeat. Your sleep, if you see changes in your sleep patterns, a lot of times with depression, people will use sleep as a coping skill. And it's, you know, it's a more healthy coping skill than others.
Right.
But I always tell people, if you notice that you're changing your behavior, or if a family member says, you know, I've noticed you don't want to do anything anymore. You don't want to come down and have dinner with us at the table. You know, it's changes in behavior that should be red flags.
You just answered so many questions over here. There's questions about, okay, when somebody's overeating, when somebody is oversleeping.
Well, you know, those we can talk a little bit about, because people that tend to, there's different types of depression.
Right.
And maybe we'll talk about that later.
Sure, absolutely.
But the eating habits kind of tend to with what kind of depression that you're having and where you are. I think a lot of the eating habits comes from, why are you eating? Because when you're physically hungry, your stomach will growl, you know, and when you're emotionally hungry, you're looking for comfort. And when I think of comfort, personally, I think of Mexican food.
Ooh.
And then I visualize those nachos in my brain. And once I see it, it goes from, I would like to have that, I want that. You know what? I need those nachos. So really,
It goes in stages.
It does.
Different levels.
Because it's, you know, it's anything that produces pleasure in the brain. It's the pleasurable activity that gets us to release that dopamine neurotransmitter. And dopamine is a really feel-good neurotransmitter. And once that gets going, those nerve cells, they get confused.
Right.
Oh, you like that. Oh, you want that. That repeated exposure, that repeated thoughts. Okay. She's got to have it.
And those are also linked to depression. Okay.
There's, you know, a lot of depression comes from those little ants you have in your head, those automatic negative thoughts.
Awesome. So before we take some of their questions, can you define clinical depression?
Well, clinical depression is known by the major depressive disorder.
Okay.
And that is pretty much when you're feeling helpless, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're socially isolating, maybe you're sleeping all day, you can't get up and go to work. You may be feeling some physical signs too. You know, a lot of times people will have undescribed pain when they're in that clinically depressed state. When you're in that clinically depressed state, you may be having some thoughts of self-harm, and you may be having some suicide thoughts.
So that's when it escalates. Okay. So we need to talk about that at a later point, because that was also one of the things that people were asking about. How does it relate with suicidal depression?
Well, you know, one other thing to mention is bipolar. People that have that bipolar depression, where they have their lows, but then they have their manic highs, they are 15 times more likely to commit suicide than other depressed people.
Bipolar?
But it's that up and that down.
Wow. So one of the questions that we have here is Manisha Sharon Thompson has asked how to overcome overthinking, how to overcome the problem of overthinking.
You got to calm that brain down. And that's really comes at it from the neurotherapy work that I do. But, you know, there are other things that you can do. You need to learn some coping skills, you know, meditation. And the nice thing today, there's great apps that you can put on your phone. Headspace is a great app, 10 minutes a day, and it will help you learn how to stay present. Because 80% of us are either worried about the past or we're lost in the future. And, you know, if you can stay present, stay where you are today, what are you grateful for? What are you thankful for? That can help you see instead of just seeing the forest, you can see the trees.
That's good. That's good. So most of the people watching today are between the ages of 18 to 30. And one thing that, millennials go through is stress. And when that escalates, it becomes anxiety. They have to have a job. Some of them don't get paid enough, so they also have to take care of school. And some of them have more responsibilities at the age of 25. They have to take care of other people. So there is a lot of stress that society puts on them, and they take it. So what are like a few tips to handle stress?
Well, I think, first understand stress. Anytime you get in that fight or flight mode, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, that puts that brain in a state of hyperarousal. And a lot of things can change. A lot of people, when they get stressed out, they get a stomach ache, they get nausea, or they think they're having a heart attack. Their heart starts beating really fast, or their hands get sweaty. So when you get in that hyperarousal state too often or too intently, it changes everything. It goes back, it redirects the blood flow away from the frontal lobes because you're in that survival state. So that blood flows to the organs that are necessary to stay alive. So when you get in that super stressed out mode, the best thing that I can really recommend you do is stop, sit down, ground yourself. Whenever I ground myself, I put my hands on my knees and focus on your breathing. Because everybody's optimal breath rate is between 4 and 7 breaths. When I'm talking to you, I'm probably taking 12 to 14 breaths to spit it all out. But my optimal breath rate personally is 5. And there's for iPhones, there's an app, Bio Breathing.
There's an app for everything.
There is, and I'm not really an app person, but when it's right there on your phone, I have no excuse not to do it.
Right.
And so I've become a bigger supporter of apps. But focus on your breathing, because if you can slow your breath rate down, you can slow your heart rate down. When that happens, you're creating heart rate variability. And there's some things that you can buy out on the market pretty inexpensively. Heart Math makes some good products that you can use to learn how to regulate that heart rate and create variability.
Awesome. So she's talked about so many apps that you could use to calm down, de-stress, and cope with, regular life. So you guys should go ahead and download those.
You make a good point. I did talk about a lot of apps, and nothing is better than sitting down with a friend or family or counselor and talking through, processing what's going on in your head. And I'm just trying to give people something that they can do right now, to make them feel a little bit better.
That's good. That's good. So guys, we're talking with Leigh Richardson. She is a brain health expert. We're asking some questions from you guys about stress, anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts. Thank you for bringing the questions in. We're answering them one by one. But please be sure to buy this book written by my friend Natasha T. Brown. She went through a tragedy and has overcome the depression, all the thoughts, all the negativity that came with it. And right now she's such a successful person. And she says, she gives great tips on how to overcome all of the things that she went through. And I've read this book. One of my favorite pages would have to be page 79 and page 80. She writes this paragraph, and it's really, really powerful. So I want you to grab a copy of this book. You can use my promo code Sharon and check out all the other books, all the other products that she has on her website. And you can get a 25% discount. So please go ahead and check that out. So we'll take some more questions before we close. Will we get addicted to depression medication?
I'm not an expert on medication, and I don't like medication. What I've seen is that people get very dependent on it. I don't know if they're addicted, but they're very dependent. and they start to believe that they can't live without it. Not everybody, you know, but some people, I have clients that one of the reasons they come is they want to get off their medication.
Right, because that's like a huge thing now. So let's take 2 more questions. When does depression escalate to having suicidal thoughts?
Well, it depends on a few things. One is, how long have you had depression? How long have you lived with it? And to what intensity does it live there? And what kind of support do you have around you? Because where I see things escalate to the suicidal level is when a person feels, you know what, it's just too much trouble to stay here. It'd be easier for everybody if I just weren't here. So if a person has a lot of support in their life, and that can be spiritual support, that can be friends, family, a pet, a dog. You know, when you have love around you, it gives you something to hold on to.
That's good. That's good. Does depression lead to... So there are many questions like this. Does depression lead to mental disorder, autism, dementia? There are 3 different questions.
Well, all of those are neurological disorders. And where depression and anxiety, they're siblings. They hang together. If you have one, you probably have some of the other. Autism is really a different situation, and that there's a lot of theories on that, but that doesn't go hand in hand with depression, and neither does dementia.
Thank you for coming and joining us. And before we end, just one last question. To overcome whatever it is, negativity, let's say negativity, whether it's anxiety, stress, depression, suicidal thoughts, whatever it might be. I've read so many articles and so many things saying faith, friends, and family, you know, having a good support system is what gets us over all of this negativity, or even creates healing in our body. Is that true?
I believe that is true, because when you have that, then you have hope. It's when you lose hope that despair comes in.
So hold on to your faith, to whomever is going through this difficult time. Hold on to your faith, don't give up on hope, and create a support system around you. That's important. So rely on your friends, rely on your family, who you would be able to talk to openly and have a conversation with them, tell them what you're going through, and share some of your burdens with them so that you don't have to be in this dark hole and this dark place.
You know, could I say one thing?
Absolutely.
There is nothing wrong with asking for help. Always think about that. There is nothing wrong. When you need help, ask for it.
That's good. And there are so many hotlines, so many people who specifically help you in this direction. Leigh Richardson is definitely one of them, so check out her Facebook page, check out her website, and if you desperately need help, definitely go to her, talk to her. They can make an appointment with you.
Actually, they can call and schedule a complimentary consultation for 30 minutes.
Absolutely. So if you need help here in the United States, come to Leigh Richardson and she can definitely help you. So thank you guys for joining us on Facebook Live. Thank you all who are watching, who commented, who asked great questions. It's time to wrap up. Follow us both on social media. A huge shout out to Natasha Brown for the book, for the promo code. Go and get the product and be blessed.